Hello, friends and dear viewers. I welcome you all for this current session where I'm going to discuss about plants and environment. Friends, we all know that the word environment itself is a very big thing because environment is everything that is around us. It is a general opinion. Of course, it can be living or non-living things and includes the physical, the chemical, and other natural forces also. And coming to the living things, they live in their environment and they constantly interact with the environment and try to adapt themselves to conditions in their environment. I mean, in their respective environments. Friends, I used a word adapt. Adapt means, of course, the meaning many of you might be knowing. It is the ability to live in conditions or situations or surroundings which we generally not used to. Yeah, I think I'm clear in explaining the word adapt. Uh, Generally, why I'm stressing this word adapt means the basic idea of studying these plants and environment, the topic plants and environment, um, is to know about the adaptations that the plants take up to survive in various types of environments. I mean, the climates, things, etc. So that is the idea. I mean, the process of adaptability of plants. So now we are dealing with the environment aspect. In the environment, there are different interactions between animals, plants, insects, soil, water, and other living as well as non living things. And of course, since everything is generally part of the environment, and the word environment is used to talk about many things. And of course, people from different fields of knowledge they use the word environment differently. So we need not go in detail about the usage of the term environment. Let us confine ourselves to the current topic, wherein keeping the mind the adaptability process of plants. Let us confine ourselves to this particular word environment. And here there is every need to know about the natural environment. Friends, let's throw some light on the process or the topic natural environment. The natural environment encompasses all living and non living things occurring naturally. The term is most often applied to the earth or some parts of earth. And of course, this environment encompasses the interaction of all living species, the climate, the weather, and natural resources. It affects the human survival and economic activity. And the concept of natural environment can be distinguished as components. Friends, from my earlier episodes, You can observe that I have discussed a lot about the components of environment. Of course, in my recent episodes also. Uh, just I'll recite the components of environment, and I don't want to go in detail about what each component means, and of course the other allied activities of these components. I'm generally going to recite the names of the components. So here, my dear friends, we find five major components of environment. The first one is the atmosphere. Of course, in my very recent episode, I have covered things very much in detail about the atmosphere. Of course, the composition structure also. And the second component is nothing but the lithosphere, my dear friends. And you all know, I think you all might be knowing well what lithosphere means, and the um, origin of the word litho, etc. Of course, the hydrosphere, the biosphere, and ultimately the human aspect. These things we have dealt in detail in our earlier episodes. So it's time for us, my dear friends, to go through a very important and a fascinating topic, that is the environmental factors. I mean, what the factors of environment that affects the plant community, right? Environmental factor or ecological factor is any factor that might be abiotic or biotic that influences living organisms. And organisms genotype, of course, example in this case is a zygote. Example is a zygote. Here, an organism's genotype translated into the adult phenotype through development during an organism's ontogeny and subject to influences by many environmental effects. Of course, in this context, of course, a phenotype. A phenotype means a phenotypic trait, my friends. I should clarify, I mean, I should give some knowledge about phenotype. So, while talking about phenotype, my dear friends, a phenotype can be generally viewed as any definable and measurable characteristic of an organism. A phenotype can be viewed as any definable and measurable characteristics of an organism, such as maybe its body mass or skin color, etc. Apart from the true monogenic genetic disorders, environmental factors may define the development of disease in those genetically predisposed to a particular condition. I'll come back once again. Apart from the true monogenic genetic disorders, environmental factors may determine the development of disease in those genetically predisposed to a particular condition. Stress, physical and mental abuse, the diet, the diet and exposure to toxins, the pathogens, of course, radiation and chemicals found in almost all the personal care products and household cleaners. They are the common environmental factors that determine a large segment of non hereditary disease. Environmental triggers for, I mean, various kinds of allergies have also been studied. So, friends, it's time for us to deal with the factors of environment that influences the taxa. Basically, or broadly, the environmental factors or ecological factors, they are classified as two types. They are the abiotic factors and the biotic factors. Friends, repeatedly we come across with these terms like abiotic and abiotic. Right from my um, episodes, starting episodes, um, every now and then we are coming across with these two words. So I think we need not go in detail about knowing what is abiotic and what is biotic, right? Abiotic factors. The earth has a number of environmental variables such as the temperature, wind exposure, the rainfall, sunlight, and nutrient availability that make life on earth possible. These environmental variables are known as abiotic factors, and they control the range of environmental conditions in a given area. As each of these factors, they change across the space and with time. And of course, no two locations on earth share the same set of environmental conditions. Friends, I think you have understood, that is, you don't find a similar environmental conditions uh, in two different locations simultaneously on earth, because all species have a varying levels of fitness for different environmental conditions. So I think you can interpret the word adaptations here. Okay, the composition of plants, animals, and all other living things like bacteria and fungi are different in each area of the world. This is very much known because in our one of our earlier episodes or two episodes, I think, we have dealt in detail with various kinds of ecosystems where you find all these things, the dependence, interdependence, etc. So we need not discuss about them once again. Now, the sun plays a major role in many abiotic factors, but each factor can also be influenced by other abiotic and biotic factors, friends. And abiotic factors are the non living parts of the environment that can often have a major influence on living organisms. And examples for these abiotic factors uh, are the water, the temperature, the sunlight, soil, and nutrients. Friends, each of these abiotic factors are essential for establishing and sustaining a balanced ecosystem. And of course, we find five common abiotic factors. These are the water, atmosphere, chemical elements, sunlight, temperature, and wind. Friends, I used to focus much on abiotic factors like sunlight and temperature. I would like to discuss more about the factors sunlight as well as temperature. Of course, just touching the other factors also. So, friends, when coming to the other factors like water, we all know it's required to survive, and the soil is considered an abiotic factor because it is comprised of small particles of rock, sand, clay, and of course the decomposed plants and animals. And soil types also they vary with with places, and of course nutrients. The nutrients part, my dear friends, it's a very big thing, very big subject to deal with the nutrients because there are broadly they are generally classified into macronutrients as well as the micronutrients. I mean macronutrients in sense again what are the nutrients that are uh, required in big quantities, and of course the name itself tells us the micronutrients in sense the nutrients which are required in lower amounts. So let us not go in detail about what we literally um, have in major nutrients and minor micro major not major macronutrients and micronutrients. Okay, right. Friends, let us start our topic, that is sunlight. We need to discuss a lot about sunlight, my dear friends. And of course, I would like to give maximum information about this sunlight as a factor, how it influences the plant. The sun has an extremely important effect on plants. In fact, plants cannot live without sunlight because we all know that sunlight is the source for energy, not only for plants, of course, for all living organisms on planet Earth. We very well discussed about the process of photosynthesis, and hope you all know what photosynthesis literally means and the mechanism process of photosynthesis, which I have discussed in detail in my earlier episodes, my dear friends. Keeping the time constraints in mind, I would go further. Okay. Here is a question. Friends, here is a question. If a plant does not have access to sunlight, then what would happen? Right? Let me tell you. If a plant does not have access to sunlight, then its leaves will turn yellow, and it will grow spindle shape. I think you can imagine. That could be the way in which the plant grows when it doesn't have access to sunlight. Of course, it may be looking weak and lopsided because it tries to reach up to whatever the light is available. So that is the probable reason for all these for all these things to happen. And now, how does light affect plant growth? How does light affect plant growth. Here you can find two things, my dear friends, generally. One is the directions of growth, and the other one is the seasonal effects. The seasonal effects. As part of our discussion, let us deal with the direction of growth. The direction of growth. Friends, the survival of a plant is entirely dependent on the source of light. In the case of all outdoor plants, the sun is the only source of light. When the first leaves appear on the plant, it will try to grow towards the light source to ensure that maximum light is received by the leaves for performing photosynthesis. For performing photosynthesis. And there are some plants which take this to extreme and follow the sun as it traverses the sky in the day. I think you got in your mind that I am talking about the sunflower. Okay, I come again. Some plants take this to its extreme and follow the sun as it traverses the sky in the day. Of course, the sunflower is the most famous example of these plants and are called as heliotropic. They are called heliotropic in botanical terms. The plants which tries to move or tries to change its orientation with respect to the movement of course, I should not say in the moment, how to put, of course, maybe in terms of light, how the day starts and how the day ends, and in between the movements of sunlight, taking it into consideration, and how the sunflower it changes its orientation accordingly. So, in case of this sunlight, we can generally observe it changes its orientation or shifts appropriately or accordingly how the sun, the sun traverses the sky in the day. So they are called as heliotropic in botanical terms. And the rest of the plants they are called as phototropic. Sunflower is called as heliotropic, whereas the rest of the plants they are called as phototropic. I think you can you can imagine the difference very clearly. What heliotropic and what phototropic means, right? I need not to go once again, but I generally want to give you a one-line answer for phototropic. Phototropic means the plants which can trap the sunlight, or which means that they respond to light. And the stems of these plants they try to grow towards the direction of the source of the light. The stems of these plants, the phototrophic plants, they try to grow towards the direction of the source of the light. Friends, let us consider a garden plant which is partially in the shade. And when light shines on a particular part, not the whole plant, on a particular part of this plant which is partially placed in shade, and the part which is exposed to light, here we can see a stimulation or a secretion of a growth hormone called auxin. It is called as auxin. Okay, auxin. To know in detail about the auxin, my dear friends, of course, as a botanist, uh, I want to go in detail. Basically, the term auxin, it is very interesting, friends, and we find its roots or its origin in plant growth regulators. In plant growth regulators, and of course, friends, I want to pose a question. Auxin, generally, in general terms or in layman's terms, auxin, of course, we can say that it is a hormone. It's a hormone that is required for plant growth. But whereas, my dear friends, I am here using the word auxin is having its origins or roots in the concept plant growth regulators. Why? Why we call them as plant growth regulators? So, friends, in this context, why not we call them as hormones, and why we are calling them as plant growth regulators? That is the question here. Let me clarify. Friends, there are many hormones like auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, abscisic acid, of course, ethylene. These five things, they are collectively grouped under plant growth regulators. The word itself tells us growth regulators. That means these five hormones, they act accordingly to the respective situations or environmental conditions. They don't just operate or they don't just carry out their duty, but they regulate. Means when time comes, they become active, and in normal conditions, they remain dormant. That is the meaning the word growth regulators carry, right? So it is the hormone auxin. It is the hormone auxin which is stimulated from the part of the plant which is exposed to sunlight. So it is very necessary for us to go through about auxin, my dear friends, because it is very much related to the direction of growth of a plant. The direction of growth of a plant. So here, when light shines on a part of a plant, and that particular area which is exposed to sunlight, here we can find the secretion of growth hormone that is called as auxin in that area of the stem. So these auxins cause that particular part of the stem cells to elongate and forcing the stem to grow towards the sunlight. And these are the changes that occur continuously through the life cycle of a plant, right? This is something about the direction of growth, wherein we have discussed about the necessity of light as a source, and the leaf primordia, process of photosynthesis, of course, the heliotrophs, the phototrophs, and of course, the production or secretion of the growth hormone called auxin, etc. These things we have covered under the head the direction of growth, which is one of the effect that light carries. So friends, I think it's time for us to conclude our present session, and hope, I think you all enjoyed the present session. Let us continue our next episode with the seasonal effects. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.